Hello and a very good morning. It's just past 8 this Thursday morning and we're back again with all the news and breakfast news, and over the course of the next 1 hour we'll get you news from across the nation, international sports and business updates, and of course we'll take a look at all the COVID-19 updates across the country and also the election updates in the poll-bound states. We'll get you all of that updates. I'm Nancy Kohli and with me is my colleague Anil Thomas. Good morning, Anil.
Well, good morning, Nancy. Lots to look forward to, especially the US Fed Reserve clearly, setting out the tone when it comes to the prices or the interest rates being left unchanged. So clearly a lot of optimism there being seen in the stock markets across the world. We'll have to see whether we get to see a trickle-down effect in India. Also, India taking on England. It's a do-or-die game. Remember, India need to win this if they have to stay alive in that 5-match series. So lots of action in the next 60 minutes. Let's get started with the top headlines at the top of this hour.
Prime Minister Modi interacts with the chief ministers on the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the country, calls for quick, decisive action to control the pandemic, asks to focus on the 70 high reporting districts, warns that if the pandemic is not stopped now, then a countrywide outbreak can occur.
India continues to scale new heights in its fight against COVID-19. Administers 36% of the total COVID-19 vaccines in the world. Around 3.6 crore doses administered till now, with more than 14 lakh doses administered yesterday till 7 p.m.
Campaigning heats up in the poll-bound states. Prime Minister Modi will be addressing election rallies in West Bengal and Assam today. The Central Election Committee of the BJP deliberates on the names of the candidates for ensuing elections. The announces 4 candidates for West Bengal elections. Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister will begin his election campaign for the assembly elections.
Well, in Myanmar, protests continue against the military coup. Protesters, including young women and children, demand the end to the military coup and restoration of democracy.
US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris condemned the Atlanta shootings and expressed concerns about the violence against the Asian Americans. Biden says brutality against Asian Americans is very troubling. Alleged gunman who killed 8 people charged with murder as police continues to identify the victims.
And India to take on England in the 4th match of the ongoing T20 series in Ahmedabad tonight. Match will be played behind closed doors. India look to level the 5-match T20 series as England lead 2-1. Well, those are the headlines at the top of this hour. Now for the stories in detail, starting first up with Prime Minister.
Absolutely. Prime Minister Modi interacted with the chief ministers of various states regarding the COVID-19 situation through video conferencing on Wednesday. During the interaction, the Prime Minister stressed the need to take quick and decisive steps to stop the emerging second peak of COVID-19 immediately. Here are all the details.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the chief ministers on the urgent and immediate issue of surging cases of COVID-19 in many states. Rising cases of COVID-19 in some states have raised alarms all over, particularly the way in which the graph of infection is surging northwards. It has invited prompt response from the centre. Prime Minister was candid in his remarks and gave a call for each and everyone present in the virtual meeting to get their act together. At the outset, he underlined the clear and present danger that the resurgent virus cases in few states pose to the entire nation and called for quick and decisive steps.
देश के 70 जिलों में तो पिछले कुछ हफ्तों में यह वृद्धि 150% से भी ज्यादा है, 150% से ज्यादा। अगर हम इस बढ़ती हुई महामारी को यही नहीं रोकेंगे तो देशव्यापी आउटब्रेक की स्थिति बन सकती है। हमें कोरोना की उस उभरती हुई सेकंड पीक को तुरंत रोकना ही होगा और इसके लिए हमें क्विक और डिसाइसिव कदम उठाने होंगे।
Prime Minister stressed that confidence should not become overconfidence and the success in controlling the spread so far should not translate to carelessness.
टेस्ट, ट्रैक और ट्रीट, इसको लेकर भी हमें उतनी ही गंभीरता की जरूरत है जैसे कि हम पिछले 1 साल से करते आ रहे हैं। और आरटी-पीसीआर टेस्ट रेट 70% से ऊपर रखना बहुत अहम है।
The most important aspect of PM's intervention was about the resurgence of virus in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities this time and the imminent threat of a spillover to the rural areas.
इस बार हमारे Tier 2 और Tier 3 शहर जो शुरू में प्रभावित नहीं हुए थे, उनके आसपास के क्षेत्र प्रभावित ज्यादा हो रहे हैं। देखिए, इस लड़ाई में हम सफलतापूर्वक बच पाए हैं, उसका एक कारण था कि हम गांवों को इससे मुक्त रख पाए थे। लेकिन Tier 2, Tier 3 सिटी पहुंचा तो इसको गांव में जाने से देर नहीं लगेगी और गांवों को संभालना हमारी व्यवस्थाएं बहुत कम पड़ जाएगी। और इसलिए हमें छोटे शहरों में टेस्टिंग को बढ़ाना होगा। हमें छोटे शहरों में रेफरल सिस्टम और एम्बुलेंस नेटवर्क के ऊपर विशेष ध्यान देना होगा।
Prime Minister also flagged the issue of wastage of vaccine by many states and stated that it is a serious lapse on the part of administration.
देश में वैक्सीनेशन की गति लगातार बढ़ रही है। हम एक दिन में 30 लाख लोगों को वैक्सीन करने के आंकड़े को भी एक बार तो पार कर चुके हैं। लेकिन इसके साथ ही हमें वैक्सीन डोसेज वेस्ट होने की समस्या को बहुत गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए। तेलंगाना और आंध्र प्रदेश में 10% से ज्यादा वैक्सीन वेस्टेज है। यूपी में भी वैक्सीन वेस्टेज करीब करीब वैसा ही है। वैक्सीन क्यों वेस्टेज हो रही है, इसकी भी राज्यों में समीक्षा होनी चाहिए और मैं मानता हूं हर रोज शाम को इसके मॉनिटरिंग की व्यवस्था रहनी चाहिए और हमारी सिस्टम को प्रोएक्टिव लोगों को कांटेक्ट करके एक साथ इतने लोग मौजूद रहें ताकि वैक्सीन वेस्टेज न जाए, इसकी व्यवस्था होनी चाहिए।
Prime Minister has been proactive in dealing with the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. He has led from the front and has addressed the nation 8 times on this issue over the past many months. He has also held 10 meetings with the chief ministers of states and union territories, including on Wednesday. Whether it be appealing about COVID precautions or announcing preventive measures, he has always kept the interest of all first and has not hesitated from taking tough decisions. His call is for all of India. This is the time for all of us to take cumulative action and work together to defeat the pandemic for once and all. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, let's now take a look at the next report, which talks about in detail about how many states in India continue to report high number of COVID-19 cases and what can be done to overcome the problem.
On one hand, vaccination drive is getting pace. On the other, surging COVID-19 cases in the country too is a cause of concern. Many states continue to report a high number of daily new cases. 70 districts in 16 states have seen an increase in COVID-19 cases by 150% in the last 15 days. The country has seen a surge in cases in last week, although the positivity rate is below 5%.
देश भर में 50,000 से ज़्यादा सरकारी अस्पताल और प्राइवेट अस्पताल कोविड वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर के रूप में काम कर रहे हैं। हमने प्रत्येक अस्पताल को जियो रेफरेंस किया है, यानी हर अस्पताल का लैटिट्यूड और लॉन्गिट्यूड नक्शों पर मैप किया है और ये उनका स्प्रेड है। ईच ग्रीन डॉट denotes a COVID vaccination center. This map also gives you an idea of where there is concentration of COVID vaccination centers and where there are geographical gaps. These maps have further been disaggregated at the state level and shared with the states so that they can do more effective planning.
The surging COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra remains a cause of concern. 60% of all active cases are concentrated in Maharashtra. Amid rising cases in Punjab, Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Centre has advised to scale up RT-PCR tests.
हमने राज्यों को ये भी अनुरोध किया है कि वी मस्ट डू मोर ऑफ द सेम, बट वी मस्ट डू मोर ऑफ द सेम इन अ एफिशिएंट मैनर. What is this more of the same? It is testing, tracking and treatment. Now that we have vaccines, it is also vaccinate. So we are saying that increase the number of tests, increase the proportion of RT-PCR tests to a minimum of 70%, ensure that all close contacts of any positive person is traced, isolated and tested in the first 3 days.
During his interaction with chief ministers through video conference, Prime Minister Narendra Modi stressed the need to take quick and decisive steps to contain the spread of the virus.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो मैसेज रहा, जो उनकी गाइडेंस हमें मिली है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को मिली है, देश को मिली है, वो ये है कि हमें ये जो इमर्जिंग सेकंड पीक है, अगर हम देखें कि ऐसे आ रहा था, इस तरफ जा रही है, जो उभरती हुई सेकंड पीक कह सकते हैं जिसको, उसको हमें पूरे जोश के साथ, समझदारी के साथ और कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ एड्रेस करना होगा. पैनिक नहीं करना है. हमारे पास कॉन्फिडेंस है, उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे हमने पहले अपने देश को पेंडेमिक से बचाया, हमें कॉन्फिडेंस है, हमारे पास टूल्स हैं उसको बचाने के. लेकिन अब वक्त आ गया है कि उन सब टूल्स को इस्तेमाल करके जुड़ के इस सिचुएशन में काबू पाया जाए और सब मिलके इस काम को करें. ये उनका मेन मैसेज.
Replying to a question, the center also made it clear that there is no shortage of vaccine in the country.
कि विदेश में जो वैक्सीन जाती है वो 3 प्रकार की प्रक्रियाओं के तहत जाती है. एक इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट हैं जो वैक्सीन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स के हैं, और इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट्स इंटरनेशनल बॉडीज़ के साथ हैं. दुनिया भर के विभिन्न वैक्सीन मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को एडवांस पेमेंट कमिटमेंट के तहत कुछ पैसा दिया गया. भारत में भी जो मैन्युफैक्चरर्स थे उनको ये पैसा मिला. उस पैसे के एवज में वैक्सीन दी जानी है, वो इंटरनेशनल कमिटमेंट है.
Although certain states seeing a surge in cases, the contribution of active cases as well as the case fatality rate is 2 or less than 2% in the country. Vaccination drive too is getting pace. War against COVID-19 has not yet been won. We must follow the simple precautions to reduce chances of being infected or spreading COVID-19 infections. Some of these guidelines include maintaining physical distancing, wearing a mask, keeping rooms well ventilated, avoiding crowds and cleaning hands, among others. Bureau Report, DD India.
And India has crossed another important milestone in its fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in the world's largest vaccination program, the cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has crossed 3.64 crores in record time. A total of 3 crores 64 lakh 67,744 vaccine doses have so far been given. A total of 14 lakh 3,208 vaccine doses were given till 7 in the evening on Wednesday. That's the 61st day of nationwide COVID-19 vaccination. And let's now go across to our correspondent Shama Mishra, who's joining us from Mumbai this morning. Shama, good morning. You know, even as the vaccination drive is gathering pace, it's gathering momentum across the country, we all need to be exercising utmost caution and, you know, really not letting our guard down, rather pulling our socks up because, you know, against this emerging second peak of COVID-19, just take us through how is Maharashtra really taking, you know, all the apparatus in place and the measures that have been put on the ground.
Well, you spoke about the vaccination drive. So let's start with the vaccination drive here in Maharashtra. Maharashtra has seen a total of, you know, more than 33 lakh vaccinations given to people, and every day an average of, you know, 2 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs vaccinations have been administered to people. Apart from this, we are also seeing that the aim or the target for daily vaccination is about 3 lakh, and that would be soon met by you know, holding up more booths, more centers for vaccination. After the meeting held by the chief ministers and the prime minister, the state health minister Rajesh Tope, he took a press conference where he mentioned that the vaccination the entire vaccination doses that we have currently will last for more 10 days. If we have a target of 2.5 to 3 lakh vaccinations per day, it will last for 10 days, and that's why he has asked for more vaccinations up after that. Apart from that, we are also seeing the highest surge after the February first week. Day before yesterday rather, we saw more than 17,000 cases that had come to fore of COVID positive. But yesterday we saw a jump, and we saw a total number of cases about 23,000, more than 23,000 rather. So this is a cause of concern. But yes, once again, the Rajesh Tope health minister has said that most of the people are asymptomatic, so there's not much cause of concern, and the hospitals centers are they have spaces, they have beds for people, for patients to get admitted into the sector. So there is no need to worry about that. But yes, like we've also discussed yesterday, that even BMC in Mumbai is putting more restrictions in the city. Else places also, we've already seen measures like lockdown, Janta curfew, Saturday, Sunday, total of night curfew. They have the districts have implemented these measures to keep a check that these cases don't reach to rural areas, or these cases which are rising cases, the spread doesn't continue, and they can put a full stop over there.
Okay, Shama, put this, the Prime Minister's clarion call to, get to act now. That's what he told the chief ministers of all the states that took part in that virtual meet. But on the other hand, if you look at, the state of Maharashtra, to over 23,000, as you mentioned, that's the single highest day spike that we have seen in 2021. And if you look at India numbers, 235,886 infections in India in the last 24 hours. That's the highest that we have seen in 102 days. So when you put these numbers there into, when you put these numbers together, what's that, where do you feel, where was that, imbalance that, led to this, huge rise or huge spike in cases, especially in the state of Maharashtra?
In Maharashtra, we are seeing that the vaccination drive began. Then people got really careless about the entire fact that they think that situation has, completely, the situation has improved. The entire pandemic is past, and now they've let their guards down. So in many places, it's totally crowded. People are crowding bazaars. The Saturday, Sunday bazaars are especially crowded with people to, they go out, their masks are below their nose or below their chin, and that doesn't help. Apart from that, we are also seeing people are not really careful about the fact that earlier we used to see that when there were only 600 cases in the entire world, we were washing all our stuff, we were washing everything, our masks, our hands, our vegetables, our products, everything. But now that has stopped. Most important, people have started social distancing, they don't wear proper masks, and that is why this entire because of crowded spaces and everything, the numbers started rising.
Okay, Shama, also put this into perspective. There is a rising number of cases that we see, over 23,000 in Maharashtra. But the silver lining, when you look at the rising number of cases, also fewer number of deaths being reported. So it's more, even though there is a rise in cases, but it's very much under control. Is that the sense that you get, or do you infer differently?
Well, if we are to compare of the February 2021, after that cases, the numbers have definitely risen. But yes, it's very much in control. And like I've said earlier, that Rajesh Tope has already mentioned that most of the cases are asymptomatic. That means people are not really suffering from major complications, and that is why people are taking the option of home quarantine, or even going to the COVID center where they could be treated very easily. So hospitals are currently not completely full, not total of the capacity. They're not totally full. So people have this relief that the hospital beds are available. All medical facilities, including the ventilators, the beds in various hospitals, in COVID centers, those things are available. So people can have that relief. But at the same if a person feels that they have some symptoms, please go and get yourself checked.
Sure.
And that is another point that Prime Minister raised, that reliance on the rapid antigen tests is more, and that is why we need to have more RT-PCR tests
Sure.
every day,
Right.
so that the number of COVID cases
Yeah.
comes to the fore, and the spreading of the virus can be avoided.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, also, Shama, what are the restrictions that are in place, for people traveling outside the state of Maharashtra, the other states? How have they reacted to the spike in cases, and how are people, who are coming into Maharashtra, or for that matter into Mumbai, what are the restrictions or what are the checks in place that people need to follow?
Let's start with the air operations first. We've already discussed that these places where the new mutations have been found, those places including the Middle East, Brazil, South Africa, the UK, from people coming from these places, passengers would have to go for an institutional quarantine. That is compulsory. That they have to follow for in some places 7 days, and in some places 5 days, and then they can take in RT-PCR, and if found negative, they can leave for their destination. Apart from that, let's come to the railways. People coming in Maharashtra from states like Gujarat, Goa, Kerala, Delhi, NCR, these places, people will have to bring with them a negative RT-PCR test, which has the validity of 96 hours. Same as with the air operations as well. People coming in to Mumbai from other places domestically, they will have to carry, from these states only, they will have to carry a negative RT-PCR test that will be valid till the earlier 72 hours. So these restrictions are there. Apart from this, we are also seeing road borders are also being checked thoroughly. Talking internal borders,
Okay.
we already saw that many districts have started
Right.
imposing the Janta curfew, night curfews, and lockdowns.
Sure.
So districts including Nagpur, Pimpri Chinchwad, Jalgaon, these places
Right,
are
Shama.
making sure that the vehicles coming inside the borders are thoroughly checked, and wherever the total lockdown is imposed, no vehicle can go out, no vehicle can come in except for the essential vehicle.
All right, Shama Mishra, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing all these updates as far as the COVID-19 checks and measures are in place. But it's very important, incumbent upon us now that we, get back to the basics once again, and we really adhere to the COVID-19 protocol. That's about the wearing masks and maintaining social distancing, and of course, maintaining proper hand hygiene. That's very important if we really have to win this emerging second peak of COVID-19 across the country.
While Prime Minister's clarion call to act now is important and needs to be followed at every level, because if you want to continue this fight against COVID-19, remember, things are not looking good, but if one needs to be cautious so that we can win this battle against COVID-19 with a vaccination and also taking care of not only yourself but also your loved ones. Well, let's now shift focus and take a look at all the developments from the election-bound states. Campaigning has gained pace in the poll-bound states. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing election rallies in West Bengal and Assam today. Prime Minister Modi will address an election rally in Purulia in West Bengal. Later in the day, the Prime Minister will address a rally in Karimganj in Assam. AIADMK coordinator and Deputy Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Paneerselvan, will begin his election campaign today. Tamil Nadu goes to polls in a single phase on the 6th of April, and the counting of votes will take place on May 2nd. But for more on this story, we're joined by our correspondent Yogesh Sheetal joining us from the poll-bound states there. Yogesh, good morning. Yogesh, give us a sense. The Prime Minister's twin visits to two states today, first to West Bengal, then to Assam. What are the pertaining points, that the Prime Minister is likely to raise, especially in the election season in the both east-bound states?
Good morning, Anil. As far as what are the expectations from this piece today, let me just start from the very beginning that Prime Minister, this is the first time that Prime Minister will be visiting Assam since the announcement of polling dates. Now, why Karimganj is important? See, Karimganj is located basically in the Barak Valley. We know there are two valleys in Assam, mainly Brahmaputra Valley as well as Barak Valley. Barak Valley is located in the southern part. On the other end, Brahmaputra Valley is located in the northern part. Now, there are around 15 constituencies in Barak Valley, and which basically are part of 3 districts. Importantly, that is Karimganj also, where PM is going to address also. And apart from Karimganj, there are also other Hailakandi and also Kacha. There are 3 districts there mainly which are located here. Now, see, as far as these districts and these areas are concerned, the first thing that you have also rightly raised, that what are the expectations, what are the points that may be raised today by the Prime Minister. The first thing that is CAA, because CAA basically is the issue that Congress is trying to raise. Now there will be definitely a strong counter today by the PM, which we may expect today, because the entire region, the Barak Valley, there are around more than 1 lakh people. They are migrated from Bangladesh, and also the CAA is directly going to impact those people. So one thing which is very important, that PM is expected to make points on CAA also, and some clarity to just remove the entire propaganda against the CAA. Okay. Now also, apart from other thing, we know that recently on January, PM also addressed a rally in, that was not a rally, basically that was an event that was organized in Sivsagar, which is also a part of Upper Assam. Also some schemes were launched, some programs were launched, and more than 1 lakh people were given, 1 lakh landless people were given land patta. That is also an issue that Congress is raising. So definitely there will be a counter of that also. And apart from that also, Mahabahu Brahmaputra was launched by the Prime Minister. So a series of development works were launched by the Prime Minister in different regions, and also Shivsagar mainly. So definitely all the achievements of state government as well as by the central government will definitely be comprehensively mentioned by the PM speech today. Okay. The address is going to be addressed in the afternoon around 2, and we know that around 6 to 7 rallies are expected to be addressed by the Prime Minister. Also on 20th he is going to address a rally in Shabwa, which is in Dibrugarh, where I am standing right now. It's around 20 kilometers away from the place where I am standing right now. So 6 or 7 rallies are expected to be addressed by the PM, and since Prime Minister is going to address this rally today, definitely it is going to be very important. It remains to be seen that what are the points that he make today.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, he makes today.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Yogesh, of course, very importantly, now that the elections are around the corner, what sort of a political temperature that you are seeing, and, of course, all the parties trying their best to woo the voters, what issues have they all picked up, and, how are they really trying to reach out to the voters?
That's right, Nancy. We know that no parties want any stone unturned to woo the voters, to convince the voters, to earn the trust of the voters, and that is the reason why the entire issues, including from the development issue, from the flood issues, women issues, also some issues of migrants workers. So all the issues are basically just on the surface at this point in time. Especially now coming to the main issue, the main agenda that BJP is trying to push. The Amit Shah recently addressed a rally, and also he addressed an event in Guwahati, and he had said that BJP will ensure that 5 things would flourish in Assam if BJP retains the power, and that those 5 things were culture, prosperity, peace, security, and also self-reliance or self-esteem of the people of Assam. So these are the 5 points that BJP is assuring that people, that if they come to power, then that the state will flourish with these points. Apart from that, coming to Congress is trying to focus on 5 main points. That includes not implementing CA, and also giving free electricity up to 200 unit, 5 lakh employment, and also there are 2 other issues. So these are the main issues precisely that both our parties are just trying to take to the people. Apart from that, also we know that some small parties also in Assam, like Rajour Party and also Assam Jatiya Parishad. So these parties are also trying to convince the voters about their issues. Now these parties are not contesting in all the constituencies, all the 126 constituencies which are going to poll. So they have also their issue, their agendas.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us. So West Bengal goes to poll in 8 phases, while Assam goes to poll in 3 phases. The The dates are already clear there. The first phase of voting takes place on the 27th of this month, followed by the remaining 7 phases in West Bengal, followed by 2 more phases on the 1st and 6th in Assam. The counting of votes on the 2nd of May, so loads and loads of time still left, and action slowly picking up, especially on the election front in the 4 states and the Union Territory of Puducherry.
Absolutely. We'll keep getting you all the updates from the poll-bound states. But moving on now and get you updates from Parliament. Well, on Wednesday in Parliament, the government asserted that the supply of the vaccines abroad under the Vaccine Maitri initiative is based on the assessment of adequate availability in the country. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar made the statement on the Vaccine Maitri in both the houses of Parliament. He said the Vaccine Maitri has made the world see not just the selfless outlook of India, but also the quality of its products and capabilities. Meanwhile, the Rajya Sabha passed the Medical Termination of the Pregnancy Amendment Bill 2021 to amend the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. The bill expands access to safe and legal abortion on therapeutic, eugenic, humanitarian or social grounds. And today, Parliament is set to take up the various important businesses. Nitin Gadkari is likely to make a statement regarding the vehicle scrapping policy in both the houses. And let's now go across to our correspondent Vikas Sarthi, who's joining us with all the updates on Parliament. Vikas, of course, we are seeing the important legislation being taken up, in both the houses amid the opposition ruckus there. And of course, important agenda also lined up for today. The Union Road Transport and Highways Minister likely to make a statement as well.
Right, Nancy. There will be a statement on scrapping policy in both the houses, and so far as the Rajya Sabha is concerned, there is an important bill is also listed for consideration and passing. That is the Insurance Amendment Act. So Finance Minister will seek a discussion and passage of that particular bill. Apart from it, there will be discussion on working of Ministry of Tourism and working on of Ministry of Food Processing Industry. So there will be discussion on both these ministries. In Lok Sabha, again, Minister Nitin Gadkari will make the statement related to scrapping policy. And apart from it, there will be a discussion and voting on the demand for grants for Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Union Territory of Puducherry. The last government business in Lok Sabha is the discussion and voting on the Scheduled Caste Order Amendment Act, which aims at Tamil Nadu, where some caste will be included as a consolidated category in scheduled caste list. So these are the important business today in both the houses.
Okay. Also, with regards to what took place yesterday, what were some of the important things that took place yesterday? We made a brief mention, but there was something with regards to social media and social media websites. Was there anything concrete that came out that the MO is spelled out in Parliament?
Well, there was a demand made by MP Sushil Modi. He wanted that the Google has been using content of several news websites and news portals. So there was a demand that Google must share a part of revenue, the kind of exercise we have seen in some Western countries. So that demand was made that that Google must be asked to pay to compensate these small websites, because there is no revenue for there is no big revenue for them directly. Whatever content is made available by Google should pay to these websites. But there is no official policy. There is no concrete policy as of now. But some of the members agreed with that proposal that for a transparent media and to sustain these news portals, Google must be asked to pay these small ventures.
Okay. All right, Vikas, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing all those updates from Parliament. We'll keep getting more updates as and when Parliament reconvenes for the day today. Let's move on now, get you some more updates.
Well, moving on to the next story there, that comes from Jammu and Kashmir, where Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha yesterday chaired a high-level meeting to review the progress made on the prestigious Jammu and Srinagar smart city projects, laying special emphasis on accelerating the approvals for DPRs and tender allotment process. The Lieutenant Governor directed CEOs of Jammu Smart City Limited, that JSCL, and Srinagar Smart City Limited, SSCL, for constituting a technical committee for early vetting of DPRs of the projects. While reviewing the Smart Poles project under Jammu Smart City Limited, the Lieutenant Governor also directed CEO JSCL for keeping a feature for expansion in the scale of the project in the future.
In some more updates now, the number of Fasttag users in the country has crossed the 3 crore landmark. This was announced by the Fasttag official through Twitter. Fasttag uses radio frequency identification technology that provides the users with a smooth and effortless crossover at toll plazas without waiting or halting. Now at the toll plazas, the payment is made digitally through the Fasttag link to the bank wallet.
Well, let's now move on to our next segment where we get you news from across the world in our segment Across the Globe. Well, the alleged gunman who killed 8 people at 3 spas in Atlanta, Georgia has been charged with murder as police begin to identify the victims. The suspect faces multiple counts of murder as well as aggravated assault. The attack comes amid a sharp uptick in crimes against Asian Americans. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris condemned the Atlanta shooting and expressed concerns about any violence against Asian Americans. Biden said brutality against Asian Americans is very troubling.
Whatever the motivation here, I know that Asian Americans are very concerned because, as you know, I've been speaking about the brutality against Asian Americans for the last couple months, and I think it is very, very troubling. But I'm making no connection at this moment to the motivation of the killer. I'm waiting for an answer from, as the investigation proceeds, from the FBI and from the Justice Department.
US Vice President Kamala Harris called Tuesday's deadly shootings in Atlanta a tragic reminder that it was critical to always speak about violence and express solidarity with Asian Americans who have experienced a rise in hate crimes.
Let's move on now, get you all the updates now on the situation in Myanmar, where the protesters on the motorcycles rode in southern Dawai district on Wednesday to demand the end to the military coup and the restoration of democracy. The procession riding 7.3 kilometers journey from Myanmar to Tizit, carrying flags and placards through villages. The bikers joined Tizit villagers, including young women and children, to chant slogans on the seafront. Well, Myanmar has been in turmoil since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government on the 1st of February, detaining her and the members of her party, drawing international condemnation.
Well, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, one of Europe's longest-serving leaders, saw his Party for Freedom and Democracy win big in the Dutch elections on Wednesday, setting him up for a 4th term as Prime Minister of the Netherlands. Rutte's VVD party was projected to take 36 out of the 150 seats in the lower house, a clear mandate to form a new coalition government. Centre-led D66 is predicted to have back 27 seats, while far-right PVV is expected to have 17 seats. The final results are due to be announced soon. This will be Rutte's centre-right VVD party's 4th term, despite his government resigning in January over a child welfare fraud scandal.
Now, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is on trial over accusation of illegal campaign financing starting on Wednesday. Now, this new trial opened less than 3 weeks after being convicted of corruption and influence peddling. Sarkozy is accused of exceeding the legal threshold for campaign expenses by 20 million euros during his re-election campaign in 2012. The prosecutors allege that Sarkozy's party spent nearly double the 22.5 million euros permitted under the electoral law on extravagant campaign rallies and then used a friendly public relations agency to hide the cost. Sarkozy has consistently denied the wrongdoing and said he was not aware of a fake billing process. Now, if found guilty, Sarkozy could be jailed for up to a year and fined up to €3,750.
Well, Ukraine's foreign minister Dmytro Kuleba has criticized a report into the drowning of a Ukrainian passenger plane last year as a cynical attempt by the Iranian authorities to hide the true reasons behind the crash. Kuleba said that Ukraine will not allow Iran to hide the truth and avoid responsibility for this crime. He said the documents does not cover all the circumstances. It reveals neither causes of the tragedy not the chain of the events which led to it. He further added that this is not a report but a collection of manipulations aimed not at establishing the truth but at acquitting the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran's civil aviation body has blamed an error by an air defense operator in the final report on the cause of a Ukrainian passenger plane's crash in January 2020 that killed all 176 people on board. Iran's Revolutionary Guard shot down the Ukrainian International Airlines flight with ground-to-air missiles on Jan 8, 2020, shortly after it took off from Tehran.
Now, the French government will impose tougher restrictions for some regions, including Paris, from this weekend to counter the accelerating spread of COVID-19 infections, the spokesperson Gabriel Attal said on Wednesday after a cabinet meeting. Now, the announcement paves the way for new curbs in the greater Paris region, where intensive care wards are full and the hospital system is buckling with an incident rate of more than 400 per 100,000 inhabitants. He also said the new measures for Paris could include some form of a lockdown. The weekend lockdowns have already been imposed on top of a nationwide nightly curfew along parts of the Mediterranean Riviera and some areas of the north. The French Prime Minister will announce the new measures at a news conference today, while France has a total of over 41 lakh COVID-19 cases with more than 91,000 deaths.
Well, South American nation Chile is seeing an alarming increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations in middle-aged adults, prompting the country's public health authorities to express concern that a highly successful mass COVID-19 vaccination program may have inadvertently encouraged adults to become complacent regarding prevention measures and take increased risk. According to the health officials, hospitalization numbers have increased for all age groups. However, the largest increase was seen in people under 49 years of age. While all age groups have seen an increase in ICU hospitalizations, the greatest increase has been in adults between the age of 40 to 60 years. Chile has had an aggressive vaccination campaign with at least one-third of the country's 18 million residents currently having received at least one shot. Chile has over 9 lakh cases of COVID-19 with more than 21,000 deaths.
Now, Poland on Wednesday announced the nationwide COVID-19 restrictions as the daily tally of the new COVID-19 cases reached the highest level this year. The Polish health minister announced the closure of the theaters, shopping malls, hotels and cinemas from 20th March until after the Easter holidays. The country of 38 million people recorded 25,052 new cases of COVID-19 on Wednesday. There were 453 deaths related to COVID-19 on Wednesday. And in total, Poland has so far reported over 19,50,000 COVID-19 cases with more than 48,000 deaths.
Well, Tanzanian President passed away yesterday at a hospital in Dar es Salaam. The news of his demise was announced yesterday by Tanzanian Vice President on state television. The 61-year-old Tanzanian president and one of Africa's most prominent coronavirus skeptics had not been seen in public since the end of February. Speculation was rife that he had contracted COVID-19. Magufuli had denounced measures to stop the spread of the virus and labeled vaccines a Western conspiracy. Last week's official denied he was ill. Government figures also said that Magufuli was working normally and that citizens should ignore rumors from outside the country.
In some other news now, Walt Disney's 2 theme parks in California will reopen on 30th April to a limited number of guests, the company has said, over a year after they closed to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. While attendance will initially be capped at roughly 15% of the capacity, according to the Disney chief executive. The advance reservations and a valid ticket will be required for the entry, and guests will be required to wear masks, practice social distancing, and follow other safety measures.
Well, let's now take a look at update on COVID-19 from across the world. The global COVID-19 case tally, which has crossed the 12 crore mark 3 days ago, is now at 12 crores 18 lakh. The total number of recoveries, the big positive that one looks at when you look at those startling numbers, 9 crore 81 lakhs. Total number of deaths being reported, 26 lakh 91,000. United States, the worst affected both in terms of infections as well as fatalities. In terms of infections, 3 crore 2 lakh, the number of infections. In terms of death toll, the number now passed the 5 lakh 50,000 mark.
And with that, let's move on now to our next segment and get you all the news from the World Wide Web this morning in Web News Review.
Well, we got our colleague Meghna standing by to give us the latest. Meghna, over to you.
A very good morning, Anil and Nancy. Let's first begin with the first news from the Hindustan Times, where the Bihar Education Department has promoted students of class 1 to 8 without annual examinations. So this is obviously considering the rise in the COVID-19 cases, and the Bihar Education Department has decided to promote these students, which are above 1.6 crore students who have been promoted without the annual examinations. Meanwhile, the admissions are also in full swing. The Education Department is carrying out the new admissions in full swing, and also just to compensate for the academic loss that or the academic major shift that the students have gone through in the times of the pandemic. There is also a 3-month catch-up course that has been introduced that would probably start from April for students from class 2nd to class 12, so that they can catch up on whatever they have missed in their syllabus and whatever subjects they have missed. So this is to fill for the academic loss. In 3 months, the catch-up course will be there. The 3-month catch-up course will be there for classes from 2nd to class 12. So this was for the Bihar Education Department. The next is to see amidst the COVID-19 cases rise in Ahmedabad. This is from the TOI Ahmedabad edition. The parks, gardens and gyms have been closed in Ahmedabad. Buses have also been shut. Buses are not going to ply in Ahmedabad, be it the AMTS or the BRTS. Both buses will not ply today onwards. And also the Kakaria Zoo amusement park, all of these places have been shut and closed until further notice. So these are the the precautions and the steps that have been taken to curb the rising number of cases in Ahmedabad. And also earlier we had seen that the night curfew had been imposed starting from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in 4 places, which is Vadodara, Rajkot, Ahmedabad, and these places, and Surat. So these places, the night curfew had also been imposed. So these steps are being taken. The next is from Hindustan Times, where Maharashtra has closed all hostels, schools and colleges in Palghar as the COVID-19 cases have spiked. And in Palghar, at a place, the Taluka medical officer has said that about 30 students had tested positive, and 1 tutor had also tested positive for COVID. So seeing that the shutdown of these colleges and hostels and schools has taken place to actually curb the rise in the COVID-19 cases. The next is from the Hindu. Genetic profiling of swamp deer in the Dudhwar Tiger Reserve has been planned. So swamp deer is found basically in the Gangetic as well as the Sharda basins, wherein this genetic profiling will take place. Currently, the WII, Wildlife Institute of India officials are studying the swamp deer, or we call it the Barasingha, in the Gangetic basin. The Dudhwa Tiger Reserve has about 3,000 population of these swamp deer, and this genetic profiling will also help the officials to study the genetic health of the swamp deer that is present there in the Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. These Barasinga are about almost 135 meter tall and weigh between 170 to 180 kg. So definitely one important thing, because genetic profiling has never been done before for swamp deer. So this is all I have in the web news review for today. Back to the studios.
All right, Meghna, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and sharing with us the web news review. Let's move on now to our next segment and get you all the business news of the day in Business Buzz.
Well, the Federal Reserve on Wednesday projected a rapid jump in US economic growth and inflation this year as the COVID-19 crisis winds down, and repeated its pledge to keep its target interest rate near zero for years to come. The US Central Bank now sees the economy growing at 6.5% this year, predicting the largest annual output growth since 1984, and the unemployment rate falling to 4.5% by the year end, compared to a growth of 4.2% and unemployment of 5% projected at its December policy meeting. The pace of price increases is now expected to exceed the Fed's 2% target for the year, hitting 2.4% by the year end before falling back in 2022. The improvement in the Fed's economic outlook did not immediately alter policymakers' expectations for interest rates, though the weight of opinion did shift. 7 of the 18 officials now expect to raise rates in 2023 compared to 5 in December.
And the Wall Street ended higher on Wednesday after the Fed predicted a fast economic recovery from COVID-19 pandemic and said it would maintain its interest rate at close to zero. Now, in its statement following its two-day policy meeting, the Fed Reserve projected a rapid jump in the U.S. economic growth and inflation this year as the COVID-19 crisis winds down, and repeated its pledge to keep its target interest rate near zero for years to come. The Wall Street extended gains after Fed Chair Jerome Powell said during a news conference that it is too early to discuss the tapering of the measures to support the struggling economy. Now, following the Fed statement, the yield on 10-year treasuries ticked lower to 1.6374%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.58% to end at 33,015 points, while the S&P 500 gained 0.29% to 3,974. Now, most of the S&P 500 sector indices rose, with the industrials and the consumer discretionary among the strongest performers.
Well, let's now move on to the next segments on sports. Well, first up, Indian cricket team would look to level the 5-match T20 series when their Virat Kohli-led side take on Ian Morgan's England in the 4th T20 in Ahmedabad on Thursday night.
Indian cricket team needs to fix its top order woes ahead of the 4th T20 International, scheduled to take place on Thursday, in order to level the 5-match series against England at Motera Stadium in Ahmedabad. India lost the 3rd T20 match, thus conceding a 1-2 lead to the visitors, who are just one win away from clinching the series. It is expected that England would not make any changes in its playing 11. Indian cricket team needs to make some big calls ahead of the 4th T20, as KL Rahul's poor form continues to haunt India's prospect. Rahul has managed to score only 1 run in 3 innings with 2 ducks attached to his name. Surya Kumar Yadav, who was dropped after his debut game, may replace Rahul in the Indian team's lineup. India would also look to bring in Navdeep Saini in its playing 11, as sheer pace can do wonders on the tricky Motera wicket. The toss is again going to be crucial in the match, as the team batting second has won all the 3 matches played so far. It has been observed that as the night temperature cools down, the Motera wicket becomes favourable for batting, while in the first innings the ball is not coming onto the bat. However, Virat Kohli displayed how to bat on the pitch with a masterclass knock in the 3rd T20 match. The big square boundaries at Motera also make it hard for power hitters to go for big runs. The visitors have used the long boundaries to their own advantage, as speedsters Jofra Archer and Mark Wood used the short ball ploy successfully against the Indian batsmen. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well,
Well, yes, cricket legend and iconic commentator Sunil Gavaskar feels that women's cricket is more elegant than men's cricket and they added more dimensions to the game which makes them unstoppable. Listen in.
I think somebody who is such a role model. I mean, look at the number of years that she's been playing. You know, that takes some courage to be able to play. That takes some dedication to be able to play. That takes some determination to hang in there. Because remember, for the better part of her career, she didn't quite have the sort of exposure and the support that women's cricket is getting now. And it's so good to see them play because, you know, I mean, I think that women's cricket is any day more elegant, more stylish than the men's game. And now they're beginning to play the power game as well.
And well, the cricketer who was recently felicitated on the 50th anniversary of the Test debut also laid a lot of stress on fitness. While at 71, Sunil Gavaskar is able to balance travel and work easily thanks to the fitness mantra that he follows.
I'm not a foodie, so, you know, I mean, I eat very little. That's been the case, you know, since I was growing up. I've been eating very little, so that's a big plus. Maybe about 6 or 7 days in a year, I eat like I've come out of a famine. But otherwise, I'm very controlled as far as my eating is concerned. I'm also pretty regular as far as exercise is concerned. I do a lot of speed walking. I've got shin splints, so I can't run. I couldn't run even when I was playing. I couldn't do long distance running. I had to do short 22 yards, 66 yards sprinting, but I couldn't do long distance. So I still do a lot of speed walking. And like I said, you know, I have a lot more control over my eating. So I guess, you know, that's helped me.
And well, here's a quick programming reminder. You can catch that entire exclusive conversation with Sunil Gavaskar later tonight on Sports 360 Champions Speak at 8:30 only on DD India.
Well, time now to take a jog down memory lane and take a look at all the important events that took place on this very day in history, 18th of March.
This day in the year 1919, the Roulette Act was passed by the Imperial Legislative Council. It extended the emergency provisions imposed by the 1915 Defence of India Act that was passed during the First World War. The Act also called upon reducing the freedom of press and extending the emergency measures for a longer period of time. On this day in 1922, Mahatma Gandhi was sentenced to 6 years in prison for civil disobedience, for which he served only 2 years. Gandhi was freed from jail in 1924 on health grounds. This day in the year 1938, veteran Hindi film actor and producer Shashi Kapoor was born in Calcutta. He made his debut as a leading man in the 1961 film Dharmputra and went on to appear in more than 116 films during the 70s and until the mid-80s. In 2011, he was honored with the Padma Bhushan for his contributions to art and cinema. In 2015, he became the third in his family to be honored with the Dadasaheb Phalke Award. On this day in 1965, the first spacewalk took place as Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov left his Voskhod 2 capsule and remained outside the spacecraft for 20 minutes. He became the first person to walk in space secured by a tether.
And let's now move on and take a look at the temperature in your city today.
Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of Breakfast News. Remember, I'm going to give you a mantra that I always follow to get ahead of people. To get ahead of people, you got to get started in the day, and it's the right time to get started and enjoy the day ahead.
All right, yes, in fact, with that, we're also come to the end of this show. And before we go, we are urging you to keep wearing your mask and practice social distancing as we fight this emerging second peak of COVID-19. And also, in fact, before we go today, we are leaving you with some very beautiful visuals from the Universal Studios in Japan. Well, so the studios has opened its $550 million pandemic delayed the Mario-themed attraction in a major leap forward in the games to make Nintendo's efforts to expand beyond the virtual wall. Take a look at those beautiful visuals as Mario leaps into the real world.
That's a wonderful place to go and take your kids out there.
Absolutely, yes. So take a look at those visuals as Mario leaps into the real world. Thanks for being with us and have a great and a safe day ahead.